Hello and welcome to How to Deal When the Shit Gets Real podcast. I'm Rietta.
And I'm Connie. And we're two cousins that are just saying no today.
Because we don't say no enough.
Yeah, just say no. I mean,
No,
I believe that's a drug thing.
No. Okay, I couldn't resist.
Okay, Rietta, getting out there, huh?
You don't know that song?
Maybe just not your singing of it.
Wow.
Burn!
And 30 seconds in and she's being mean already.
I just don't recognize it. Sorry. Maybe I'm too young.
It's okay. It is an older song. I'll forgive you this one time. So yeah, we're going to, since it kind of goes with last week in a way, we figured this was a good topic, and Connie and I both struggle with this ourselves. I know for sure I do. And with the coming holidays and how stressful the holidays already can be.
It already gets stressier the more you don't say no.
Exactly. You get more stressed the more you don't say no. So we're here to, even though we don't really know how to do it that well, no, I'm just kidding. We're here to learn together how to say no.
Yep. Because you basically end up having more on your plate than you thought you were going to. You know what I mean? Because you didn't say. I mean, it's literally how I ended up getting Thanksgiving at my house with like 18 people last year. And I think 12 people this year. Is because I can't say no. And then I did a good job. So then it was like, well, now you have to have it.
Pretty much. That's how it goes. And that's like the Labor Day or whatever party that you just had that went from like 14 to 22. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I got to invite that person now.
Exactly. Because you just didn't think about it. And then all of a sudden, and it was fine. Everything is fine. They're just lucky that I don't mind hosting. It would be a different story if we were having Thanksgiving and I hated the whole ordeal and to begin with. So in a way, they're lucky that I'm okay with that. I don't mind cooking and having people over. Because if I did, then I would say no, or at least have to figure out how to say no.
Exactly. I definitely struggle with saying no, for sure. Somebody asked me for something and like the first thought in my brain is to literally be like, yeah, sure. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like I don't, like no doesn't even, I'm so, what do you call it? I'm so
A people pleaser?
Yeah, like a people pleaser, and it's almost like ingrained in me to say yes. Like it's just the automatic. Like my brain doesn't even think about it. Somebody asks me something, I'm like, yeah, sure. Even though 5 seconds later, I'm like, why the fuck did I just say yeah, sure? I hate that.
Oh man, that sucks. And it's hard to walk that back. And when like looking up like how to say no better, basically like the first thing is to like be upfront about it. Don't like be like, oh well, maybe, or even be like, yeah, and then backtrack. I could see that not working out because they're gonna be like, but you just said yes.
Exactly. Well, and if you really want to break this down, and I even talked with my therapist about this a little this week in our session, there are 3 styles of communication. There's passive, assertive, and aggressive. And assertive communication is basically where the being able to say no falls into. It's assertive is the best of both worlds, of being able to be a little passive, but a little aggressive, but in the proper way.
Yeah, because you don't want to you're going to get people really pissed off at you if you're like, fuck you, no.
Yes.
Like, I don't see anybody being like, thanks. I'm so glad you said no to me.
Yeah, but there are ways to explain it to say, first of all, there's nothing wrong to saying no. You don't even necessarily have to justify yourself. Before I left Instagram, there was a lady that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that I loved following. Her name is Tabitha Brown, and she talks about complete sentence. And she said, saying no, like, no, honey, I don't want to, that's a complete sentence. Meaning you don't have to explain yourself. So there are certain situations, maybe if it's not family that you, and even with family, you don't necessarily have to, but there's nothing wrong with saying, just no, I'm not up for it. No, I don't want to. Complete sentence, as Tabitha Brown would say.
Yeah, I do feel like that's why we end up having a harder time with no, is because our family, they don't really give you room to say no, first of all. Second of all, it's not in their vocabulary as it is, like our family in general. And this could be a good or a bad trait. They very rarely say like no, in my opinion, like especially when you're asking like for help.
Yes.
of the time, they're all willing to help you with whatever you need, even if it's a struggle.
Yes, they are. That is one thing. I mean, we talk a lot of crap about our family, but we do really have a great family. There's just some dynamics that are a little off, but that's pretty much all family. But we do have a very helpful family, and a lot of us do struggle to say no, and we need to be better at it. And one of the things that I was reading when we were, because we do try to research this and give you guys the best information we can and not just spew our opinion, even though we do love to do that. So there are 3 C's of assertive communication, which is
confident. And no, it's not Connie.
Yes. No, it's not Connie. One of the 3 C's is not Connie. I'm sorry to disappoint. It's confidence, clear, and controlled. Obviously, confidence would be in your ability to handle the situation. If you come off confident, it's going to be better. Clear is obviously the message is clear and easy to understand. And controlled, you delivered the information in a calm and controlled manner. Like Connie said earlier, you don't have to say, no, fuck you, I don't want to help you. You can say, you know, I don't know a lot about this, or no, I'm not interested, you know?
Or there's too much on my plate right now. Mm-hmm. You could just say no.
You could just say no, like we talked about, complete sentence.
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes I always want to justify myself to my mom why I won't do something. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I almost always end up helping my mom with whatever she needs because I know that she's not getting help from elsewhere. Like that remote baby shower. I know that I'm basically the only person that would have been able to set them up with this remote baby shower. Like my mom's great at planning a regular party, but remote is a little bit above her skill set. She had no idea. And I did like the background research for her. And I could have said no, and I'm sure she would have figured it out. But she already has so much on her plate that I didn't want to say no.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's an okay, like if that's, I feel like there's nothing necessarily wrong with that situation. It's your mom. You do have a desire to help. And as long as you're not like totally stretching yourself thin and stressing yourself out, then I think that's okay. That, or maybe another solution might be like if you do want to help, but you don't necessarily have the time yourself, is maybe find somebody to replace you. Say like, hey mom, I can't help you, but my friend Joanne is free and she would love to help you, and I could introduce you guys and she could get decorations for you, or whatever.
Yeah, and when I was researching this as well, that was like one of their points was you can like put it back onto the other person, be like you just said, like, oh, well, I don't really understand this. So how do you want me to do it? Stuff like that, like kind of flip-flopping and be like, yeah, it's kind of not my problem almost. Mm-hmm. It really wouldn't work for that situation because it's my mom and she'd be like, bullshit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like, and their example was like for work, like getting explicit directions on how they want it done, because you're telling them in the first place, well, I really don't know. Mm-hmm. So that was one of their reasons.
And there's nothing wrong with saying even that something might be uncomfortable for you. Maybe somebody asked you to do something and it's something you were not comfortable doing, and you could say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with this. Maybe there's somebody else that you can ask that would be more comfortable or confident, because I don't want to mess it up or whatever.
Yeah, and I actually almost had that kind of situation. So on Halloween, we were passing out candy and drinking. Not really passing out. It was just at a stool at the end of our driveway. We were quote unquote being social distant. Mm-hmm. Shocking. And anyway, his mom was over and drank a lot. And obviously she could not go home. And Tom's offered up our bed. Oh, just sleep in our bed with Connie. And I was not particularly comfortable with that. But I actually didn't even get that far, because instead I drove her home, which I think was actually a pretty great compromise.
See, we're getting all the
I'd rather just drive you home.
See, we're getting all the podcasts together. We bought compromising together, and we're bringing assertiveness together. It all works. No, I think that's a great example. Like if Kyle did that to me, it would be the same thing. I'd be going, I'm sorry that my husband offered that to you, but no, I'm not comfortable with that.
Because let's face it, that's weird.
And I will not sleep if it really needs to be, I will either drive I'd even give options. A, I will drive you home, or B, you could sleep in the bed and I will sleep on the couch. I'm not sharing with you.
Because it's a little weird when you're an adult.
I
Like, we're
mean,
not, I don't know. It's
I
just weird to me.
I feel like it'd be like one thing if it was your own mom. Like
Oh, for sure.
I'd
That
be
would be
more willing.
fine.
Yeah, I'd be more willing if it was my mom. But even my mother, see, and I don't technically have a mother-in-law, but just thinking in general, even if I was super close with my mother-in-law, I still feel like that would be
A little
weird.
weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
So another part of this is, so we're going to talk also, of course, about the benefits of being assertive, because I think a lot of people associate saying no with being negative, and it's not necessarily being negative because there are a lot of benefits to having assertive communication. And one of the key ones is having better communication. Both parties are going to understand each other, because if you say yes, but you really wanted to say no, the other person has no way to know that. And then if you have this like animosity towards them about doing this task, and then they're wondering why you're upset or heated about it when you're the one that said yes, it causes a rift in
Friction.
your, yeah, it causes friction and a rift in your, not only in your relationship but in your communication. But if you're honest and open and say, hey, no, I just don't have time or don't want to do it, whatever it is, you're keeping an open communication with that person.
Yeah, versus just kind of holding it in. And again, like, these are some stuff that we've talked about before that we're bringing it back.
It's just one of the benefits. And then the second benefit, like we've already said, is less stress.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, and I feel like it also, like with your mom, my mom, whomever,
Mm-hmm.
saying no also helps set boundaries. So
Absolutely.
that then next time you really won't have to say no, because they might not ask you, or they know that that's just not something you're into, like sleeping in
Yes,
the same bed as another person.
absolutely. Well, and I've been working on trying to have more open communication myself in general. I never used to talk about my anxiety, and I try to now. And if there's a certain situation that I feel might make me anxious, I try to tell the person, like, hey, look, I have anxiety. I am trying to work through it. But if I have to leave or I need to step away or whatever, this is why. Like, I'm not trying to be rude or whatever. It's just what I have to do. So if there's certain things that I don't want to do or that I'm still working on, that's why. Like, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah, of course. So have you tried being more assertive with your mom yet?
I have been in a way, so without like getting too much into it, because I don't want to like put all our dirty laundry out there. I've just been working on, again, honest communication with her, like telling her when I feel like she's being too aggressive towards me or too negative towards me, or I feel like she's taking something else out on me that's maybe affecting her, but I'm getting the brunt of it. And it seems, so far, it seems to be working. She was very, like most people, was very taken back and offended at first. Like, she took it personally when it wasn't meant really to be personal. It was just meant to say, like, hey, we need to work on our communication skills and being in a healthier spot together. And, it's going to take time. We have 30 plus years of, well, probably 30 years of not so good communication. So it's going to take some time, but definitely working on the being honest, saying no when I need to, and sometimes just not answering the phone, which I'm sure sounds terrible, but you know how it is. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to talk on the phone, no matter who it is, your mom, your best friend, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Just saying no to that phone call.
Mm-hmm. Which
Yeah.
I used to always be the person that no matter what, I would answer the phone and listen to what was going on in here. And I can't anymore. I literally can't. It's too much. My cup is too empty. I can't pour from an empty cup. I have to say no and just not answer sometimes. And it's hard because I like being there for people and helping people, but I can't stress myself out to help other people.
And that's also why there's a thing called therapists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it's really that bad, you know what I mean? Like, wait, so say the person's calling you and it's an issue. That is why there are therapists. You can have an emergency session with a therapist. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. And I don't mind doing it sometimes, but not all the time. You need to have several outlets, and some of them need to be ones you do on your own. But
Yeah.
anyway, back to the third benefit of being aggressive is more trust. So obviously trust is important in different relationships, and being assertive is going to help you naturally build more trust because people are going to appreciate your open communication.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and we've talked about that kind of thing before, like strengthening like trust and communication in a relationship. And I guess this is
Absolutely.
just one more thing.
Yeah, so you're getting benefits in several areas. And then of course the last one is you are more confident because obviously if you're saying yes to everything, you don't feel confident in your ability to not hurt the other person and to express what you're feeling. So it builds more confidence that you can interact with others without worrying about what they think or feel about you or lowering your self-esteem or whatever it may be. So it's just there's a lot of good benefits to being able to say no, basically.
Hell yeah. I know that I'm going to need to strengthen that one up because sometimes I'm like, yeah, I probably do like run myself a little too thin with
Mm-hmm.
saying yes to everything. And but I mean, this was not me. It'd be like Tom would ask me, so you want to have these people over, that people over? I'm like, and I'm like, no, because we've already had so many other people over in previous weekends. I just want to stay home and do nothing. Like that's where I'm at, you know.
And
But
that's
it's
okay.
easy. And that's easy for me to do with Tom. Like if they were asking me directly, I think it would be harder for me to say no versus Tom, it's easier to say no to. Because
Yeah.
of our relationship is so much closer. Especially like saying no to his family, I don't really particularly like doing. I leave that
Mm-hmm.
up to him.
Well,
Like
and
that,
that's okay.
kids, I'll probably have to say no more and set more boundaries. And me and Tom have actually already started talking about like what kind of boundaries we would want, like no electronics until they're much older, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that is actually one of the reasons that I've been pushed to use more, no more, just having a child. And, sometimes not only saying no to him, but saying no to what people want to buy him for Christmas or saying no to just all sorts of things. I mean, it really does teach you because there's just certain things that you're like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, fly my dad, he was kind of joking. He was joking. He was like, "Are you coming home for Thanksgiving?" I was like, "No." Are you paying? If you're paying, sure.
Right?
But, and it's easier for me because I only have one kid. But imagine trying to be by yourself and wrangle three kids to get on an airplane to fly 10 hours. I mean, jeebus, just to spend a couple days with your family. Not that I don't want to, but that's a lot of stress.
Yep.
So it was one of those situations where I was like, no, I would love to. And if it was easier, yes, I would love to, but no.
Well, and I think the amount of time you're spending, like, okay, so if you were going for all of Jackson's Christmas break up here to where we live, then that would be like one thing. But Thanksgiving isn't all that long. You know
No.
what I mean?
Right.
Like, it would be worth it if it was longer, but it's not. It's a few days.
Yeah, it's a few days, and Kyle's going to be home soon. Obviously, I can't say when because of aspect. Um, if you guys don't know what aspect means, it just means I can't talk about it. I'm not going to go into the whole like spiel about it. It's just a safety thing for the troops, but he's going to be home soon, which also limits the amount of time that I could go home. So
Mm.
I'm not going to do all that right before he comes home. And then like, I don't know if we're going to have to quarantine and we're going to have to quarantine when he gets home already. So
It's a lot.
yeah, no, it's just a no. And that's okay. Would I love to? Yes. But is it realistic and worth it? No.
And also, I mean, you'll be home in like mainland USA soon. So then it really won't even be that big of a problem to visit like later. You'll be like, you'll have your time with me later. You
Right.
know, right now it's not as important.
Right. And that kind of leads into the next thing where you can watch your tone. When you say no, you don't have to be like, no, why would I do that? You could just be like, no, I would really love to, but I can't. It doesn't work in our schedule right now. You have to watch the way you say things. And that's not to say that you're tiptoeing around the person. It's just the nice way to do it.
Oh no, for sure. Because I have seen Tom say no in not a good way, because like we were messaging and we had like house stuff that we wanted to get done around the house, and his mom is like, you guys want to come over for like a picnic? And it was last minute, which I think is really what, like, Tom was like, I don't like this, you're barely asking me the day before. And he was like, no, we have things going on. Like, we had stuff to do. She's like, well, what kind of stuff? And he's like, lawn work, yada, 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 like house stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she got offended because we wouldn't drop house stuff to go see her. And then I messaged and I said, oh, well, we'll see. Because how stuff can be like more flexible. We can get some stuff done on Saturday, so there's not so much stuff to do on Sunday, and we can go see your mom, So like I was trying to be like the voice of reason, because when he said it at first, it was so abrupt to her that she was not a fan of how, like, she got super pouty real quick, and you could even tell, and that was over text messages.
Yeah, and I'm sure part of that had to do with his instant feeling about it, like, oh, she's asking me last minute. So without even thinking, he was just like, no, we have things to do. You say it without even taking that moment to like slow down, watch your tone,
Yes.
think about it, and then say it. Like, that was his instant reaction, to be like,
Yeah,
no.
it wasn't like a no thank you.
Right, it was like a no, how dare you ask me 5 hours beforehand.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I like butted in, and then it was fine. But either way, like, it was like, okay, yeah, you don't give their gut reaction. My one boss will say sometimes, like, for emails and stuff, he's like, you can just let them sit for a few minutes and think about the problem that they're asking. And this is the same thing for text messaging. You can let the text message sit and think about it, and maybe release some of like the anger or frustration you feel by being asked something else, and then give a polite response later when you're not so angry about it.
Exactly. And that was actually one of the final points that I wanted to make anyway, is that be willing to discuss it further until you come to a solution where like both parties feel good about what you've talked
AKA
about.
compromising again.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to say no, that the other person understands. You listened, you reasoned, you talked about it, and you're good about it. And that's, of course, not everything is going to come up roses every time, but that's a part of saying no.
And I feel like with our parents and our family, like, so we talked about earlier how you can just say no, and it is harder with family, but I feel like you can get away with it if it's no, because like, this is my personal feelings on this. I don't like this. I don't want my child to have a tablet at the age of 5, like stuff like that. And it's actually kind of funny. When I was in I was in college. I was working at this place, and they're like, oh yeah, this woman who has a couple of kids, she's like, yeah, my brother got my kids tablets. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not really interested in my kids, whenever I have them, to having like a ton of electronics, especially so early. She's like, oh yeah, well, good luck trying to say no. I'm like, it should be easy, because that's not how if you really don't want your kid to be raised that way, it should be easier to say, no, that's just not in my ideals, and it's not how I want to raise my kid. And that should be 100% great answer for saying no to something.
Yeah, and that's like, I even have discussions with my mom or our aunts, and they'll be like, oh, well, you let him have Cinnamon Toast Crunch and you let him have Pop Tarts. Because when I was a kid, we weren't allowed any of that. We didn't have sugary cereal. We didn't have Pop Tarts. We didn't have, what else? Like Gushers and fruits, stuff like that. And I hated it. So I mean, I'm not saying I let Jackson go crazy, but I do let him have that stuff sometimes. And my usual response to the answer, whoever says anything, is, thank you for your input. I get what you're saying, but this is my kid, and I'm okay with him having X, Y, and Z if he wants to on the occasion. That's like, even occasionally I'll let him have pop. Rare occasion. I couldn't even tell you the last time, but occasionally I do let him if he's being really good and he asks really nicely, like if we're at a party or something, and somebody always has to make a comment. Oh, you're letting your kid have pop. I'm like, do you know when the last time he had one was? No, you don't. Do you know who's responsible for that? Me. So your input is not necessary. Obviously, I am thinking that in my head, but I'm saying something way nicer like, I appreciate your concern, but this is my choice. And right now I'm okay with him having a little soda.
Yeah. Well, and also, you're also really teaching him control, that you don't need all those sugary foods all the time, but you can have them on occasion. Like that's what you're showing him by giving it to him a couple of times, giving him like the taste of it, but not buying it every night for him every single day. That's,
Right.
you're not teaching him to overindulge, and it's nobody else's business.
And he's already a picky eater. So I'm not going to nix something that he likes right now just because it's not the healthiest. Like, I need him to expand his horizons and not just shrink them. And even though I don't like everything that he eats right now, I'm not going to have that argument with him because if I argue with him every time we sit down to dinner, he's going to have a negative association with having dinner with his family, which I don't want. And he's going to have a negative association with food, which I don't want. So, and then everybody else's input is not helping. I appreciate the input, which is what I always say, but I'm the mom. Let me do this. I'm the one that sees him every day.
Yep. And he's a kid. Your tastes change so much from being a
Yes.
child to an adult. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and sometimes it doesn't change. I know a girl who is my age who cannot stand lettuce or certain other foods simply because of the textures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. She's a fine working adult. Like she can still freaking function. You know what I mean? She
Right.
just knows what she likes and what she doesn't like, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And the pediatrician flat out says, like, yeah, it might not be ideal, but guess what? He's growing and he's getting bigger and he's strong, and that's all we care about when they're kids. And and when you talk to most adults that were forced to eat something when they were a kid, they still don't eat it as an adult.
Yep.
So 90% of people that I know, if they were forced to eat broccoli or whatever when they were a kid, it literally made the aversion to it worse, and they still don't eat it as an adult. I'm not going to do that to him.
Yeah. So the hope is that eventually he will like those foods and he'll
Yes.
figure it out.
Yes, he's going to get smarter and understand nutrition more and understand, like, hey, if I want to be big and strong like daddy, I have to eat more than grilled cheese. Like, that connection is going to be made eventually. But he's 8.
Cross your fingers.
It will. I know it will, and I'm not going to I stressed myself out about it for like 2 years, and I can't do it anymore. Like, he will be okay. He's growing, he's strong, he's healthy.
Yeah, it would be a different thing if he was not growing or strong or healthy. That's when it's a problem. But at the moment, there's clearly not a problem.
No, he eats plenty. It's not always the greatest stuff. He does like fruit. Awesome. He likes yogurt. Awesome. Milk. Cool. We do the best we can. The end.
Oh, hell yeah. But I mean, isn't that what this is all about? It's just doing the best you can with even being like assertive and saying no. Like if you can't just say flat out no right away, that's also fine.
Mm-hmm.
You can give reasons, you can talk to a person about it and let them know like there's just too much going on right now.
Yes, exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
Also, on another note about this, I just thought about it actually, is like, don't let your pride get in the way of saying no. If something is too much or too overwhelming, it is okay to say, can you help me with this? Or like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. But don't be like prideful and not say no, if that makes any sense. Just because I'm just thought of a situation where we were going to have this large party and the person hosting it, like it didn't end up happening because of quarantine and stuff, but they were super super stressed out about it and wouldn't even let my mom help because they were like too prideful to ask and also too prideful to say like, no, I don't want to host this.
No, that's another great example. You definitely can't let your pride stop you from saying no.
Saying no and or getting help, either one.
Yeah, or getting help. Yeah, and not admitting that you need help.
Because you need help, everybody needs help.
Absolutely.
We all need help.
I'm in the process of working at a nonprofit, and I know I don't know everything about it. I know that like building a website is not my strong suit. So I hit up my board member who is, and I say, "Hey, I threw this together. I know it looks like shit. Will you please fix it because you know what you're doing and I don't?" And guess what? That not only like makes you honest and have good communication with the person that you're speaking to and they respect you more, but it also makes them feel good because you're saying, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know you do. Can you fix this?"
Yep. And that's the better way to go anyway, right?
Like, yeah, because he's gonna know how to fix it and I don't. So, all about it.
Yeah, so another article that I was like researching about it was saying like understand why the person is like asking for your help, because then if you understand like the reasoning, then you can like better say no. And I think we've kind of already touched on this already,
A little bit.
but
Not
uh,
not
but
enough.
I thought it was a good little like point,
No, it is.
because like that's like we were just talking about before with that baby shower that I helped to host. Like I knew why my mom was asking me. She knew that I would help her. And
Mhm.
I said yes because I know that there's no one else to help her. And like we talked about before, like because I know why she's asking, I could have found somebody else to do it for her. I just chose not to. It's the same thing for anybody else asking for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I like understanding people's motivations.
And it helps both to understand, if their motivations. Absolutely.
Yeah, it helps to understand each other in general.
Mm-hmm. It does.
How to get better along with each other. Ooh, we're so great. It's awesome.
Well,
So
is it recap time? I feel like that was all the good stuff.
yes, but I do think that you should recap it this time because you are the creator of this.
Oh, was
And I
I?
feel like you can sum it up better than me because I feel like I'd be all over the place.
You know what? I'm gonna keep it simple and I'm gonna do an ode to oh my God, Tabitha Brown. I just blanked there for a brief moment and just say no is a complete sentence. It's okay to just say no. Just make sure you do it in a respectful manner and you watch your tone and you will have less stressy and depressing moments.
Hell yeah. Sorry, I was looking for our end thingy that
All
I like
good.
deleted again. It's
Oh my
fine.
Lanta, you're
I
fired.
know. I really am. It's fine. So this is how to deal when shit gets real. And check us out on all of the socials, mainly Instagram, because I post a funny meme.
She
Uh
does.
I do. I like memes.
We like
And
memes.
and stay real, everybody.